With a new season comes new finances, and new finances means we have a wage budget to work with and recruit new players. In doing so, we managed to grab the Ugandan god of penalties. This year, despite having a much better squad than what we had 12 months ago, our season preview was a lot more realistic. My goal of trying to generate funds through an abundance of friendlies ended up taking our team cohesion out of a severe red to an acceptable sliver of green, which isn't surprising considering the confidence boost of stomping low league teams from the surrounding area. Ignore the 1-0 loss to the only J-League team that we faced. The opening to the season went about as well as we could hope, with 2 debut goals, including the penalty god gracing us with his powers. Unfortunately, that same match injured our brand new striker, so Wang Yang, who didn't retire in the face of last season's injury, was brought back into the first team to cover for the loss. We then recorded our second 2-1 win, but my optimism is with caution, as this could just be a very fortunate starting schedule. We then recorded a disgusting loss, including a red card for a hard tackle from our god. Seriously, Ntege, what was the point in this? But we immediately bounced back with a dominant display against Nantong to record our 3rd win of the season. To follow up on this positive result with back-to-back losses, and considering how low in the league system our cup opponents are, I thought I could rest most of my first team for this. We could play the youth squad. Eliminated in the first round on penalties, which included a miss from our penalty god. We started to rapidly slip down the table, but I was still able to maintain support and morale in team meetings. Our losing streak included some absolutely appalling displays, but admirably, only a 1-0 loss when we faced against the league leaders. Things clearly weren't working out for us, so I made a move, copied over the formation that I was using on my 30-year save when my Essen team were climbing up Germany's regional divisions. By this point, the positive vibe from pre-season had all but been depleted, although the squad still has faith in me for some reason. After another loss, I realised that in the process of buying new players to improve the squad, I had forgotten to let go of the now obsolete ones who were completely outclassed and thus didn't really serve a purpose for us anymore. So I did a mass unloading prior to the summer transfer window to try and free up some more space in the wage budget. So at this point, I'd like to point out the added difficulty that we're dealing with, where our annual wage budget is so limited we can only afford a third of what the next lowest team in the league is spending. And then finally, after weeks of coming up short, we broke the losing streak with a 10-man 1-0 win over a team that is likely to be in the relegation battle. We then followed this up with our first league draw of the season, a 3-3 comeback against 4th place Beijing, where our newest signing scored a hat-trick on his debut. Looking at him, I was honestly surprised that he was still unemployed. He's not that bad. Spurred on by these new signings, we then recorded another win to take us up to 16 points before recording a disappointing draw against relegation candidate Henan. At least the youth intake looks promising again. We then kicked off the second half of the season with 2 disappointing losses and the board telling me that $3,000 is too expensive to spend on a promising new signing. Really, he wasn't fully scouted yet, so they might have been right, but we desperately needed cover in defensive options and there weren't that many people available. We soon found ourselves on yet another losing streak. The win that broke it was very almost snatched away from us too, with a myriad of late goals for both sides, but we followed it up with a much needed win against a team that we were even on points with. I noticed there were multiple weeks off in the upcoming schedule, so I booked us a series of friendlies against regional teams to try and secure one last confidence boost headed into the tail end of the season. August had other plans, as 2 of my top players secured nasty injuries. We promptly lost the match we were expected to lose, and were then given a summary of the relegation battle we were embroiled in, and for the 2nd year in a row, it was a favourable set of matches, for the most part. We kick off the final stretch of the season in great fashion, a 4-1 loss. I then start to get forwarded reports of a possible takeover happening at the club, and I honestly have no idea what this could mean for my future. We then receive our next youth intake, which the stars look promising, but the top talent does look like this. Our season of disappointment quickly resumes as we record a 1-1 draw in what was supposed to be our easiest match. The only benefit is our direct opponents dropped points too, so we're now 1 ahead of the relegation zone with a match to spare. A win would keep our fate in our hands, anything else, and we're reliant on others to do the work for us. Scary, I know. We won 2-0 to once again secure our safety on the final day of the season. The majority of the season was played over the course of 2 sessions on back-to-back days, and I didn't really enjoy those sessions. I was starting to doubt my ability to actually achieve any of the goals with this series, especially with how I'd made very clear improvements to the squad and had a much better start to the season, only to end up exactly where I was in the previous season. Of course, I wasn't expecting the transfers that I'd made to turn us into a dominant team overnight, but I was hoping to at least feel safer. Like, I was expecting to finish 10th. Like, I didn't feel like expecting to finish 10th would have been too big of an ask. And I'm going to give this at least one more season, and if nothing changes by then, I think I'm going to look to round this out and just return to my somewhat journeyman style save. So how does this season's episode end? Takeover bid collapses, rumours of administration, the board want to re-sign me, I lower my wage demands to the bare minimum that the game will permit in my effort to do whatever I can to help. Aren't I just the sweetest?